to Millennium Computer's fast online tutorials for budgets and forecasting. This tutorial will be presented in 4 sections. First is the initial setup. This is only ever done once. Second is to populate the forecast with data. This is done each time you create a forecast. Third is end-user data entry and changes to the forecast. This is the decentralized part of forecasting. And fourth is reporting and finance. As mentioned, the initial setup is only ever done once and includes 3 steps. First is the spreading model, then the month table, and then the development series. You can access the spreading models from the Budget Admin menu. You have to make sure there are 12 different spreading models that correspond to each fiscal period and that 100% of the funds are allocated to that period. The spreading model called April has 100% allocated to the first period, which is the first month of the fiscal year. And for September, 100% is allocated to the 6th month of the fiscal period, which is the forecast month we will be using. To see how the spreading models and fiscal years are related, I will show you the month table. And you can see that the month of September has the correct spreading model and that it is also using the correct fiscal period. The last part of the setup is a development series, and you need a development series to use as a starting point to base your budget forecast on. A forecast is done by month, and each month is independent. I am going to set up this blank third series as a forecast month placeholder. The title of this development series will be Forecast September. The description is similar, and the effective year is 2010 since we are using the 2009-2010 fiscal year. And make sure you choose the correct forecast month. In our case, it will be September. Selecting the Allow Entry from Summary checkbox lets me add transactions in the Boss pop-up form, which I will explain later. And make sure the series is enabled. Make sure the locked checkbox is cleared so that we can use this development series. That finishes the setup, and I can now save the development series. Please note, if you are using a fiscal month for forecasting, you must set up and use each month individually. The second section of budget forecasting is populating the forecast with data. Different institutions use different types of forecasting, and although we can't cover them all, we will be discussing 3 common ways to set up a budget forecast. The first is a zero-based forecast. The second is a forecast based on external data, and the third will be a forecast based on a budget series. However, budget forecasting is in no way limited to these 3 types. A zero-based forecast starts with no data in the forecast column and therefore has all zeros. You can then have staff tell you what the major risk items are that will have an impact on the budget and put them in the forecast column. Once a forecast is created in the Manage Development Series section, you are ready to start collecting, adding, and otherwise developing your data. There are 2 ways to have a forecast based on external data. The first is to take data from your ERP system, and the second is to import the data from an Excel spreadsheet. This way you can see where things are right now with historical trends for non-salary items, say for the last few years or 6 months, and then average it and use it as a historical where we are going. Using the wizard, you can import the data from your ERP system, select Custom Query, and go to the next step. For step 2, select a template format, and then select the query to pull in the data. If needed, Millennium can build a query for you based on your custom business rules. I am back at the first step of the wizard, and this time I will select the Excel option, then the type of spreadsheet. Find the spreadsheet on your computer and then import it. Select a change number and budget series and then post the data. The third way of populating a forecast that I will be talking about is based on a copied budget series. You can take the current working budgets with revisions and give that to users, which they can then modify in whole or in part to figure out where they are going to be at the end of the year. For this type of forecast on the Development Series page, click the Copy tab. Select the series you are copying the data from, and the series you are copying the data to, which is the one we called Forecast September. If you aren't sure whether there is any data currently in the series you are copying to, then select the checkbox to clear the previous data. And the final step is to click the Copy Series button. The third section of budget forecasting is data entry and changes to the forecast, which is the decentralized part of budget forecasting. I am on the Development with Actuals page and have selected a fund and organization. I am going to drill down to find the code so I can enter a new transaction. As you can see, the base and forecast development series have the same data. I am going to click the amount for code 7046, which is the computer supplies, and add a transaction in the BOSS pop-up form. And the amount for this code is automatically updated. I have opened the BOSS pop-up again so that I can drill down to the development entry form. The development entry page opens, listing transactions for the amount you clicked. I have opened the edit form that shows the transaction I just entered on the BOSS pop-up form. I can also add a transaction here to the forecast development series. The only month available is the September forecast month because that is the series I previously added the transaction to and then drilled down to this page from. The total shows the updated amount of $2,501. You can also see this data in Fast Finance, but I want to show you one more thing on this page, which is the ability to attach a file to this transaction. Click Browse to find the file on your computer, and then click Upload File to attach it to the transaction. You can click the file name if you want to open it, or delete it if you no longer need it. Click Hide Attachments to close this section. The asterisk shows you that a file is attached to this transaction. The fourth and last section in budget forecasting is reporting in Fast Finance. I will show you how to find your forecast data in the Finance reporting. Open Fast Finance from the main homepage. Make sure to select the correct forecast month and then click Enter. By default, the data is displayed by current year, but we want to see it by forecast, so it needs to be changed. I am going to drill down to find code 7046 for the computer supplies amount that I entered earlier. And here is the amount for the computer supplies that we entered, along with the data for the rest of the budget forecast. In this budget forecasting tutorial, you learned how to do the initial setup, how to populate the forecast with data, some end-user data entry and changes to the forecast, and finally, reporting in Fast Finance.